Susan, I can share the agenda.
All right, we're just about to go live on YouTube.
Happy New Year, everyone. Good evening.
Happy New Year.
Hello, good evening. Hello, Madam President, Andrea Babington.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, sister, Jeff, and everybody. Kingsley.
Yeah, so yeah, I just have to go into another meeting, but I can listen to this one. Yeah. Yeah, all right. Yeah, so I'm just saying, you know, like, anyway, the point is you almost all know what's true, right? Oh my God. Let's see this.
Considering he already works at Children's, he's probably in their system. And I can put the agenda up a little later on if people want to.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello, Abdullah. I hear you had a birthday the other day.
Yeah, you miss.
Happy birthday.
Hey,
Thank you.
happy belated, Abdullah, King Abdullah.
Thank you.
Okay. And we're gonna start, but I just want to say, and I think our last meeting in December where we talk a little bit about what was happening and coming to the end of the year and what we want to see the new year look like. So I first want to say Happy New Year, happy 2022. This is going to be very interesting. All right. And I think we have our path almost cut out for us. We already seen with the new year starting up, everyone was really hoping that we'd start 2022 looking much better, but we already see in January where there's frustration with a new outbreak and the eagerness of having children back in school, and now we're back again with another delay until January 17. That's the date for now, until January 17, and just each other checking and wondering why we can't stop some things, but we can try to prevent some of this. And if more work was done and precaution in places and testing sites, we seen some of those sites wrapped up quickly. They were waving goodbye as they wrapped them up. And also for protective gears, all those measures that should have been in place to slow down and prevent some of this. So, we have to just take care of ourselves and take care of each other and making sure that we are holding the ones that need to be accountable for these tasks that are at hand that we don't have the say over. Okay. So, before we start our meeting, I am going to turn over, I think maybe Jennifer, just to let everybody know the rule as we go along.
Okay, Hey, hi, everybody. Welcome to 2022. I think for most folks, you're all familiar with how to use Zoom, maybe all too well. Just basically, when you enter the meeting, please mute yourself. Sometimes folks accidentally have been unmuted and we can hear your whole conversation, or folks in the bathroom. Use your blue hand, the Zoom icon, to raise your hand. And I think that's it. Am I missing anything else for the instructions?
I think that's it so far. Thank
Yeah.
you. Okay, and Sister Jinky, our Secretary Treasurer, will lead us into the harassment statement. You're on mute, sister.
You would think I would know how to unmute now, but I don't. I'm so sorry. I attempted 3 times. That was horrible. Good evening, everyone. Sorry for the delay. Our harassment statement. Mutual respect, cooperation, and understanding are strongly held principles of the trade union movement. We will neither condone nor tolerate harassing or discriminatory behavior that creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive environment and undermines the dignity or self-esteem of any individual. An injury to one is an injury to all. Speech or conduct which is racist, sexist, homophobic, or discriminatory in any way is unacceptable to trade unionists and only serves to divide us. Our policies and practices must reflect this commitment to equality as we work together for justice and dignity in our workplace, in our unions, and in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. And I'm going to ask Brother Jeff Arens, our Vice President, to also lead us with the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, sister. We are meeting on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the New Credit, which was subject to the Dish with One Spoon Treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. Thank you. Let's have a great meeting.
Thank you, brother. Okay. And I'd like to ask, I don't want anyone showing up at this meeting and if it's their first time not to be acknowledged. We always appreciate having guests coming on and hopefully staying permanently. So I'm gonna ask if there's anyone here for the first time, if you're able to raise your hand by using your Zoom hand signal to raise to acknowledge, so we can acknowledge you.
I don't see anyone with their hand raised just yet. I'll do a bit of a scan. Looks like we're all experienced delegate meeting attendees.
All right. Okay, so and before I go any further, and I know I mentioned a little bit about, is that
I see Abdullah Idris has raised his hand.
you're on mute?
Yes, this is not my first time, but the first time when the new leaders here, the new president. So that's the first time. Nice to see John Cartwright. Nice to see the new president also, the new faces. Yeah, that's why first time this time, but not first time for the Labor Council. The problem is I didn't show up because the same meeting we have, our executive board meeting also the same time in the evening from 5, sometimes go up to 7:30 and up. That's why we couldn't make it for this one, but usually will be, hopefully, I will come, will continue to come, yeah.
Thank you, brother. We're gonna need everyone. We're gonna need everyone, so thank you.
Yes, we will.
Yeah, before we approve the minutes, I hope you got a chance to review the minutes that was sent out, and I'm not sure if it's in the chat, but I hope before we're going to ask for a vote on it to approve electronic vote. And when I started off just now talking about the kind of challenges that's already ahead of us for this year, and didn't mention, but I really want to hear your own thoughts. Not right now, but later on the agenda, going closer to the ending of it, we're going to have a open mic where it would be, great. We're going to invite you to share with us some of the resources that you have, and also some chance to talk a little bit about the impact of COVID-19 on you and co-workers. And I think it's really good for us to hear each other, and as we set this tone going forward, to see where we're at and how we can help each other in solidarity. So just keep in mind that I don't want you running off the meeting before it ends, because we want to hear from you, your voice of wisdom and some action plan in place. Okay. So the minutes that, as I mentioned, that you should have already, I'm gonna ask for the poll. And then also to ask for a motion to accept. It's yes or no or abstain.
I see Ralph has raised his hand to make a motion.
Brother Ralph?
Yes, I make the motion to accept.
Okay. Is there a second?
Well, it just comes down to her.
Brother Abdi? Okay. Okay. And I see Sister Jane Marsh. Okay. So we have 93% in support of that motion. Okay. Before we go any further, I also want you to just to join with us. We've seen the last few months where, as we come to these meetings, we have the moments of silence for co-workers and loved ones, and for this opportunity to have that moment of silence for our co-workers that died during COVID and workplace accident. And tonight, I want to ask you to help us to take this opportunity to remember one of our brother that passed away. And we also have the president of QP Local 79 that will take a few minutes to share a little bit about Brother Doug Jones. And for most of you, when we have the in-person meetings, and I know when we are doing virtual, it's a little bit harder sometimes to identify who's here. But Brother Doug Jones is one of the brother, including Brother David Kidd, who's normally at the door, and others that came by over the years. But you can't miss him. He's always at the front. I know, and I just want to say a little bit about it. My daughter is 17, youngest is 17 years old right now. And I remember when I just came on the Executive Board of Labor Council, every delegates night I would bring my newborn with me, and he's always at the door reaching to take her from me. And eventually it's hard plucking her back out to go, and he's always saying it's uncle, it's his niece. And that happened for so many years, as I say to you, for the 17, and every so often you'd post pictures of us and picket lines, or when you'd see her out there. Now she's 17, she don't think she should join us anymore in these militant action. But Doug always have Alicia somewhere. He's asking for his niece. And I can remember this picture. It's right in the time of the 2010, the city workers fight. And this was right at when the library did their rally, huge rally, and she didn't want to go to school. She wanted to go out to support the library worker. And there was Doug with picking her up and putting her on his shoulder. He's always proud. So, you know, I that's really a good memory of him and how he embrace. He's always embracing kids out there. So, you know, he will be missed. But I'm gonna call on, I'm gonna take this opportunity to call on Brother Dave Mitchell to say a few words.
Thank you, Andrea, and thank you, delegates, for giving me this opportunity. So, as many of you know, and that knew Doug, he was our Sergeant of Arms. He was also, over the past year, Sergeant of Arms for QP Local 79. Doug also sat on our retirees committee at present, and was very active and never shy to carry a flag. Sorry about that. I'll just tell you a quick story. I'm in my 32nd year with the City of Toronto, and in the beginning of my career, becoming a union member was important to me. So I took lessons. Sorry, not lessons. I took courses, and the first course I took was union history. As I said, it was 31 years ago down at Gerrard and Yonge Street, and Brother Doug Jones, a young strapping man with long blonde hair at the time, was one of the facilitators, along with a gentleman named Jim Chisholm. From that day on, I've credited a lot of what I've done to Doug. He was always at wherever there was a cause. Doug was there with a flag. He was very proud when I became president. He was a member of our political action committee. As many of you know, he's a proud NDPer. He worked for many years in long-term care at Kipling Acres, where he served honorably as their health and safety rep, and many in that group would know Doug for his health and safety advocacy. He was a kind man, a hardworking man, and gave all his time to all of us. He truly seen all of you and us as family, as we truly seen Doug as family. He'll be sadly missed, and I'll just say safe travels on your journeys, brother. We'll miss you as well. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you. So at this time, I'm gonna ask if we could pay our respect by doing a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay. Thanks, Dave. Okay. So it's you know, I keep saying it, and I think for the rest of the night I'll be just hinting over and over about the kind of challenge that we have ahead of us. And as I mentioned before, how important it is for us to work in solidarity, whether it's unions, whether it's co-workers, whether it's us in our own community, to get through this. And with doing so, we have to look at each umbrella, whether it's the Labor Council, the OFL, or CLCF, whatever we can do to make sure that we are charging ahead and in support and in solidarity. And with that, we have our guest here, Sister President, recently, I'm gonna say newly re-elected President, Sister Patty Coates of Ontario Federation of Labor. She's here tonight and will be sharing with us a little of their plans, their vision for 2022. Sister, welcome.
Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. I really appreciate you giving me the time on your agenda. And as Andrea said, I am Patty Coates. I use she and her pronouns, and I am the proud president of the Ontario Federation of Labour. But before I go on to my remarks, I actually want to also recognize Doug. He was actually also a member of SEIU 2. He worked at the Ontario Federation of Labour as one of our cleaners in our building. And he was always, when I first came on board at the OFL in 2015-16, he was always very welcoming and telling incredible stories of the struggles, and you saw the passion in his voice and the things that he has to say. So, brother, rest in peace, and you will always be remembered. So I am so excited to bring greetings to you on behalf of the OFL executive. And I know firsthand the importance of labor councils, the work that they do locally, and how they are an essential part of our labor movement. And here at the Toronto and York Regional Labor Council, you play a pivotal role in representing and fighting for the rights of working people. Myself, Secretary Treasurer Ahmed Gaid, and Executive Vice President Janice Folk-Dawson are looking forward to continuing this important work together in the year ahead. We know it won't be easy. Ontario is once again in crisis. And as we head into the third calendar year of the COVID-19 pandemic, we're all facing burnout, stress, and anxiety. The pandemic continues to disrupt all aspects of our lives, but it especially impacted our conditions of work. It affected when, where, and how we work, or whether we work at all. While workers face growing uncertainty, precarity, stress, and COVID-19 exposure in the workplace, corporations ranked in billions in profits. Equity-seeking groups bore the brunt of the pandemic as profits were too often prioritized over keeping people healthy and safe. We know that didn't have to be that way. The Ford Conservatives repeatedly acted in the interest of big business over Ontarians' health and safety. They refused to put in place common sense measures like permanent paid sick days, while hospital capacities again are reaching their limits and beyond. Too often, they chose to put up a fight against workers instead of listening to what workers need to keep this province running. And once again, too many workers don't have the protections they need to keep themselves and their communities safe. Healthcare workers are experiencing staffing shortages like we've never seen before. Education workers still waiting for comprehensive and meaningful action to make a safe return to classrooms a reality. As we always do, the labor movement stands strong to demand better. We know that the only way out of this disaster is to have each other's back. Throughout the pandemic, the labor movement has been a powerful force. In 2022, we're building our momentum. Through our solidarity, we will continue to lift all workers' voices and demand the protections and rights that all workers deserve. We're doing that by organizing for the 2022 provincial election coming up in June. With only 146 days to go, we're using every single moment to make sure that no one forgets the harm that the Ford government has caused since 2018. At our next Executive Council meeting, where we bring together Labor Council presidents, we will focus on our robust election strategy that was overwhelmingly supported at our convention in November. This strategy has been 18 months in the making, with consultations with our executive board affiliates, OFL committees, and Labor Council presidents. We've started by launching a digital campaign hub, which you can find by heading to ofl.ca and clicking Take Action at the top of the page. Since we launched in June, we've hosted digital actions on a range of issues impacting workers, from Bill 124 to gig workers' rights, to demanding safer classrooms, and so much more. Also, on the Take Action page, we've launched a pledge to fight for the future, where you can pledge to get involved in the upcoming provincial election. And I encourage you to join the pledge. Our digital campaign hub will complement a comprehensive ground game that will identify current and potential supporters, engage and mobilize activists, and provide a range of opportunities to get involved and take action, to build momentum towards ensuring a workers' first agenda is front and center of the upcoming provincial election. We're also going to launch a training series. Sessions will educate volunteers about how to campaign and build capacity to ensure that workers' voices are heard. We'll be providing opportunity for activists to put their skills into action with canvases and phone banks. And as part of our on-the-ground strategy, we will also be launching a member-to-member engagement tool to facilitate one-on-one conversations between workers. In March, we're hosting an activist assembly, so keep an eye out for that. Then in April, we're holding a women's election summit. Then for May 1st, on May Day, we're planning a province-wide day of action that demonstrates our collective power and calls for a workers' first government in Ontario. On June 2nd, we are counting on each and every one of you to show up in full force to vote out Doug Ford and his disastrous Conservative government. Ford is going to try to convince you over the next couple of months that he's changed his ways, but a leopard can't change his spots, and an anti-worker government is not going to change their ways, acting against workers' interests for the past 3 years and a half. We've seen this, so they're not going to change. And we've been keeping track in all of the ways that Ford government has failed workers, over 300, and it's growing. And we have vowed that we're not going to forget. Together, we will build an Ontario for all. And I know we can achieve this future because we have the power to win. And as workers, we make this province run. We are in a powerful position to demand better. So let's do this together. Solidarity.
Thank you. Thank you, sister.
Point of order.
Okay, Brother Cartwright.
It's Kingsley.
Oh, sorry, I thought I saw his hand up.
Best wishes with the new year to Andrea and to Patty. We went over agenda item 7, strikes and lockouts.
I'm going back there. Okay, thank you. So thank you, Sister Patty.
Thank you very much, everyone, and have a wonderful rest of your meeting. And I look forward to seeing you all out there, whether it's digitally or on the ground, as we ensure that Doug Ford is a one-term government and we vote in a progressive worker-first government. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to for anyone having strike report, strike or lockout report. This is your time. Okay, I see Sister JP.
Thank you, Sister Babington. I really appreciate that. I'm JP Hornick. I'm with OPSU Local 556. We're the Ontario College faculty. We've been in a legal strike position since December 18th of last year. And we've been in work to rule ever since. We have an incredibly aggressive employer who has, from the earliest days of our bargaining, refused to actually just state at the table that they were refusing to negotiate any of faculty's demands around workload, equity for contract faculty, no contracting out, protecting counselor and librarian jobs. And so really what we're fighting for is more time and with our students. We're fighting for more stability in our system, fair jobs for everyone who's in our system. This is the first time in our sector where we've ever attempted to engage in work to rule. And we've been working with comrades in other sectors who've done it before to both build that solidarity and lean on their experience so we can build our own capacity. The colleges imposed terms and conditions. To our knowledge, they're the only employer to ever have done so twice. They did it before in 2010. And they've chosen to abandon negotiations. So all of the actions we've undertaken so far have been designed to specifically target our administrators and lessen pressure on our students. In addition to this, we've been trying to concentrate on making sure that our students are supported, that their needs are met. But we also have an employer who is refusing to provide basics around adequate health and safety. As a matter of fact, our employer lobbied the government for a specific exemption from physical distancing measures and PPE in instructional spaces inside the colleges. It's incredibly shameful. So we have thousands of classes running starting right now where faculty are being asked to go into classrooms where upwards of 80 students are present. There's no consistent restrictions around masking, HEPA filtration. We don't even have paid sick days for a lot of our folks. So right now, the things we're arguing for, faculty currently have a maximum of just over 5 minutes per student per week for grading. And that's very few people actually get that maximum. Our workload formula hasn't changed since 1985. That predates the internet. We have only 10 colleges of our 24 colleges that have full-time academic librarians, but all of them offer degrees. And meanwhile, the college administrators have seen an average of 5% raises per year over the past 5 years. That's 25% in 5 years. Tuition skyrocketing, faculty and staff salaries have stagnated, part-time support staff have been laid off in droves, and that includes a lot of student workers. So what we're looking at is trying to actually not just shore up our system, but make it better for students. And so we're looking for some support from our comrades. If I can, I'll put in the chat a link that everybody can go to send an email to the college presidents telling them to direct their team to go back to the table, negotiate faculty's demands, or at least agree to binding interest arbitration. We've had that on the table for them since the basically end of October, and they've refused that out. They are refusing to negotiate and refusing worker demands and abandoning faculty and students around health and safety in the middle of the pandemic. So I really appreciate the time that you've given us here to be able to speak to this. Thank you very much. And it was really, solidarity to Doug. And thank you, Patty. It was very good to see you speak too. And Andrea, congratulations. I haven't had a chance to say that personally to you on your election.
Thank you. Okay. Any more reports? Okay. Thank you. So make sure you go to the chat for the information that Sister Arnett talk about. We gotta get our running shoes on and charge ahead. We've seen all of last year and no one coming to save us. We've seen where the gift is going to the bosses. It's time for us to do whatever we have and suit up and start fighting back. Okay, so we also have a few guests that's here with us this evening. That they're here to talk about some of these issues. Again, as we've seen what's happening and the attack of with the Ford government, and also relate to the statement that we are going to talk a little bit more in depth tonight. But before we go any further, I'm going to ask for to introduce Sister Jennifer Scott. She's the president of the Gig Workers United, and she'll be speaking on behalf of gig workers about some proposed changes that could curve out gig workers right from the Employment Standard Act. So let me take this opportunity to welcome Sister Jennifer Scott.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. We really do appreciate it. So I'm a gig worker. I have been a gig worker for 5 years. That means that I deliver things on my bicycle in downtown Toronto. My coworkers are folks who work on bicycle, in car, on scooters. They walk. We shop for things, we deliver them, we pick up hot food and deliver it to folks so they can eat. And some of us even drive people around. Our work is important. We have been essential workers during the pandemic. And also as gig workers, we are misclassified workers. And so we have little to no rights and little to no protections. Because we have been fighting for as long as we have and winning for as long as we have put pressure on the government, and they're not doing the right things with that. So what I'd like to talk to you about now is what is happening right now. And it is urgent because it will happen quickly, and it will not impact only my coworkers and I. It will impact you and your unions. I often say this and I don't particularly enjoy it, but sometimes it makes people laugh just because of that like dark. Sometimes they just gotta laugh at things that are terrible. But the gig economy is coming for your jobs. And I have a new thing to add to that, because it's not just that anymore. The gig economy is coming for your jobs, and the Ford government is okay with that. They are on board. In 2021, in November, I think, Monty McNaughton announced the Ontario Workforce Recovery Advisory Committee's report. That's a mouthful. And that report is terrible. It's just fucking garbage. It's bad all around. We don't like it. I watched that press conference, and I remember McNaughton said, I am putting apps on notice for mistreatment of gig workers. But then went on to say that he loved the recommendations in the ORAC, and that we might anticipate some legislation when legislature returns in February of 2022. And it's hard as a gig worker, as someone who's been watching everything that's gone on in 2021, which has been a lot. It's hard to read the recommendations from the ORAC because they are exactly the same as what Uber has been lobbying for since January of 2021. What they are lobbying for is a carve out and a cap, and literally just everything that is terrible for workers on our rights and our protections and our ability to unionize and to utilize collective power to benefit workers. So I mean, like, as a first stop, to be clear, what is going on right now is that both politicians and international, multinational corporations are trying to create laws that will lock working class people into a second class status and carve us out from labor rights and protections and benefits. And while doing that, they are so bold as to, in the same breath, tell us that it will be good for us and that we will like it. We don't like it, and we are going to fight it. But part of why I'm here today is because we can't do that alone. I don't come from the world of unions. My family, most of the people in my family are very low income, and so like having a union job was considered like a luxury. And most everything I know about unions I've learned in the past like 6 years. But it's interesting and it's meaningful to me. And one of the really important things that I've learned about the broader union movement is that phrase that we're constantly repeating, that we're trying to raise the floor that we stand on, so that we all stand on this floor and we reach up for things that are better. Boutique benefits or portable benefits, which are terms you will hear being applied to gig workers, are carve-outs from statutory EI and statutory CPP. That is not raising the floor. That is creating a ceiling that we can only bargain up to. And when I think about what I have learned about the union movement, that we stand united together in this understanding that that floor is so important and that that floor is full bargaining rights. Having two-tier status is a ceiling. Again, a ceiling where all we will be able to do, no matter how much fight,
alien when you're turned upside down.
no matter how big our wins are, we will only be able to reach to the bottom of that floor, never upwards above it, as we are all trying to achieve. And I bring that up, and part of why I'm reminded of that now is because these changes are not only going to apply to people who work like I do on Uber Eats and Skip the Dishes and Instacart. You know, the government's not going to make a change to the Employment Standards Act that only applies to people who work for Uber. It doesn't work like that. And right now, where you in your unions probably know a gig worker, you probably know someone who should be a member of GWU, you probably know someone who delivers or does rideshare. But when these legislative changes are brought in, when these carve-outs exist, when these ceilings and barriers exist, not only will you just have members of your union who casually are gig workers, you will become gig workers. I have a question that I've been asking folks, and I guess in this format it's rhetorical, but I still think that you should consider it. What rights and benefits do you think that you don't deserve at work? Because that's what I am facing. And if that stuff is successful, if the government is successful, if Uber wins, that's what you'll be facing too. The gig economy is not going to stop at my job. It's not going to stop at taking my rights away. It will come for yours. We have already seen it all over the world in other countries, in other industries. We know that gig work has moved into the tech sector, into healthcare, into education. The list goes on. It is an intentional and malicious push to undermine the rights of working class people and to disempower unions. And it can't stand. And I have a hard time, and I'm sure you all do too. I know this is a room of comrades, but I have a hard time listening to the Ford government say they are working for workers, as if being a worker is the same as being a hashtag, because it sounds like that. Within Gig Workers United and within Foodsters United, there's something that I say a lot to my coworkers because it's true and it helps us center on what we're doing. And that's that for a long time now, we have not had the rights and the protections that we are fighting for. And many, if not most of us, have never had them. And that is not okay. And so we are fighting the government while we are fighting to build our union, while we are fighting to survive in an unsurvivable job, because we must. And in January and February of this year, we will need you to stand with us. We will need you to help us show the government what it looks like when working class people say no and stand together. That is incredible. It is powerful. It will work. But we need you with us. And so with that in mind, I have some asks for you, some that I can give you specifically today, and some will come later. But for now, we need you, both the Labor Council and the unions that you are part of, to publicly endorse our opposition to the ORAC recommendations. We need you to help us make sure that this isn't something that the Ford government gets to push through in 1 or 2 sessions and nobody hears about it. We need you to help us make it an election issue and show them that gig workers are not alone, that gig workers are cared about, and that others understand the importance of our work and of our demand for full workers' rights. So public endorsements from the Labor Council and from your unions. In the meantime, as gig workers, we are balancing deliveries and working on multiple apps and street outreach to our coworkers and building our union and writing bylaws. We have to bring in our bylaws in April, so we'll be writing them this whole time, all while also trying to put pressure on the government. And that's something that many of you are experienced and knowledgeable at doing. So your help in putting pressure on MPPs to let them know that unions and the labor movement stand with gig workers, that we stand in opposition of carve-outs, we stand in opposition of portable benefits. We understand that while gig work may be the flag that this is flown under right now, this is a permanent change that will impact all of us, and it's a change that none of us will quietly let happen. And also, while you're doing that, centering gig workers, centering our voices. We are strong, we have a lot to say, we are here, and I don't know, it's a big fight. It's a fight I'm really confident we'll win. And I'm looking forward to doing it with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. So we have, as I mentioned, we have another speaker that's here. Will share his own personal story of, again, just to describe the kind of attack that's happening. So our next speaker is Brother Wayne Harris. He's from the Ontario Network of Injured Workers Group. Wayne is a sprinklers fitter and a member of UA Local 853. He was badly injured on his job and then was badly treated by the Workplace Safety Insurance Board. Wayne will speak to us about his experiences, which result in WSIB benefits being greatly slashed. WSIB save a lot of money over the years of underpaying injured workers. And also Wayne was removing benefit from him entirely. The result, WSIB billed surplus. I'm getting a feedback. I'm not sure what's happening there.
Maybe we could ask Wayne to mute himself for just a minute and then unmute when he starts talking.
Okay. So in Bill 27, the Ford's conservative government plan to give that money back to employer instead of giving it back to injured workers. And any one of you who, I hope not on this one, but for many workers over the years that got injured on the job can share a lot of these kind of stories of an employer who posed with these checks, these huge checks, and they celebrate all these money that they would get back from the government for lying and not reporting some of their injuries over the years. And seeing now we're in 2022 and seeing part of the greed and the race to win, again, is pawning off injured workers and rewarding employers. So I'm gonna ask us to welcome Brother Wayne Harris to share his story with us. Welcome, Wayne. Welcome, Wayne.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Brother, sister, I went from owning a 4-bedroom, 2,900 square foot in Brooklyn, Ontario with my wife and 2 sons to now a room at a friend's house, divorced and not living with either of my sons because the WSIB deemed me fit and capable to return to my work after my injury. Hello. My name is Wayne Harris, UA Local 853 Sprinkler Fitter of Ontario member for over 30 years. I sit on our executive board and I'm the chairperson of our political education committee. A member of Oniweg, Ontario of Injured Workers Group, acting VP of the Toronto area. This is who I am today because of the injustice of the deeming practices of the WSIB. First off, following my first shoulder surgery, the WSIB took my dignity by forcing me back to work to modified duties against my doctor's advice while on opiates. The surgery failed. The WSIB sent me back to work based on paper review conducted by their own doctors. The WSIB sent me for retraining as a project manager. They provided basic program for an introduction to project management. I do not hold a PMP or any other certificate that would allow me to complete as a project manager in the field of study. At the end of my introduction course by the WSIB provided me a CV with errors in it and no understanding of how to use the program to change it so I could use the printout copies provided. No training was provided for applying to any position online, which was universal standard for a number of years now. The WSIB gave me a certificate of completion to be a project manager with 3 years experience, on which there were grammatical errors and my name was even spelled incorrectly. At this point, I was told to go find a job as I was deemed fit and capable and was armed with my new training. At the same time, I was told by my doctors that I was required a full shoulder replacement, but needed to undergo surgery to remove an infection from a previous failed surgery. The WSIB cut my salary, told me to go find a job so I would have an income, and they would continue to pay for my surgery as reviewed when provided documentation as they determined by them. Wow, did my mental health take a hit? At this point, my stress level went through the roof. I was in constant pain and had little to no skills as a project manager, did not understand where I obtained the 3 years experience and was facing 2 surgeries. I went from being a contributing member to society while providing for my young sons who now lived with me, one full-time and one with my ex-wife, to being an unemployed with no prospects for any employment, to losing my house, my sons, my entire world collapsed. Every day was a new battle with the WSIB just to get them to pay for my required medication, let alone pay for me while undergoing surgeries. 2 surgeries turned into 7. Later, then on October 2021, I have a full reverse shoulder replacement with not much else to celebrate. In closing, never did I think in my 30 years of contributing to the WSIB that when I was injured on the job, I would be bullied, belittled, ostracized, and made to feel a person and be completely destroyed emotionally, financially, and physically. During my entire working career, I was told the WSIB would help us, the workers. They are not cheap insurance for the employer, and if we were injured, I would be treated fairly, with respect, and made whole to be able to maintain the standard of living I had acquired prior to my injury. And to add insult to injury, it was announced with great pride by the WSIB have a huge overpayment that they will be returning it to employers, and I am left lying awake at night wondering when I will be made whole. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, brother. So I hope you got a chance to review this statement. It's called "The Ford Government Just Doesn't Work for Workers." I'll ask Susan if she could put it up, but again, I'm hoping that we can have some speakers to speak on this. It's a really good statement that captures some of the things that Ford want to reward himself as the knight in shining armor, and then to look back at some of the horror that workers are facing based under the conservative hand. Is there any speakers for the statement? Brother Abdi?
Sisters, brothers, comrades, good evening. Happy New Year to you all. And Brother Doug Jones, rest in peace. We will be missing your presence. So, sisters and brothers, we heard today what the brother said, and most of us are aware that Doug Ford and his government is not our friend. And they attack the weakest of all of us. They attack our injured workers, that the workers that built this province to where it is, the workers that support that everybody have a good living. We heard tonight about the gig workers too. They suffer and struggle more than anybody. When they get injured, they don't get WSIP. This money that Doug Ford and his government wants to give back to the companies, the big companies that already took and become rich on our sweats, are for the workers. It's the money that we save. It's the money that we work through the insurance. So this is the time, sisters and brothers, to make these issues. Tonight we had many times that Sister Patty said, Sister Andrea Babington said, Jennifer mentioned it, and the brother mentioned it about how our workers are struggling. We cannot leave anyone behind us, especially this time when the COVID is ravaging our people, our workers that make us to stay home or to work safely. The people who are frontline workers, like the gig workers who make us stay home and they deliver day and night. So this is actually more, it's a workers issue, but it's more than that. It's going to human rights issue that a brother suffered to the extent that he lost his partner, his children, living in one room in his friend's house. So sisters and brothers, support this statement fully. And also, let's make this one an election statement to Doug Ford. Let's make him acknowledge our power. Thanks. Back to you, Madam President.
Thank you. And I'm going to call on Brother Dave. If you don't mind, I didn't do that at first, but just to say your union, what union you're from?
Yes, I'm with IATSE Local 58. On the matter that I believe it's Brother Wayne Harris brought up about what's now called the WSIB. I think we should start as part of something we do with the candidates in the election and ask them. This was changed from the 1911 Justice Meredith proposal to have a compensation system for injured workers. And in 1997, 2 years into Mike Harris's mandate, he came up with the Workplace Safety and Insurance, not compensation, Insurance Act. And the workers of today, such as Brother Harris, are paying for this change to an insurance scheme, not a compensation scheme that is dealing with injuries or occupational health issues in the workplace and making them whole so that they can have dignified lives until such time as they can return to the workforce in a reasonable manner. So I heartily endorse the statement. And I think that my suggestion would be to approach this with all the candidates that come knocking at the door and say, what do you think about this? We have the better part of 90 years where it's a compensation system, and all of a sudden, it's not anything like what it was originally proposed to be and what we'd lived with for generations. So that concludes my remarks on this. And by all means, we should support the statement.
Thank you. Brother Kingsley, could you introduce yourself?
Thanks. Best wishes with the new year, everyone, comrades. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Wayne, and the previous speakers in support of this statement. My name is Kingsley Kwok, Executive Board Member of the Ontario Public Service Employees Union. I want to state from the outset that I do not stand behind and I do not stand with this government or this premier or this minister of labor compared to my own union presidents. I just want to start out like that, in case there's any doubt. Not only are there problems with the way this government is responding to apps or application companies or changes to the Workers' Safety Insurance Board, this premier and this government reverse positive changes to the minimum wage, to the Employment Standards Act, and to so much more, and reverse them. It is not something to applaud when we know that if we did not reverse those positive changes, the minimum wage as of January 1st would have been $15.75. That's the reality, and that's why Ford is not our friend. And then after they did away those positive changes, they passed legislation to cap wage increases of public sector workers in healthcare, in education, in all other public services in the provincial jurisdiction at 1% per year for 3 years. And now in January 2022, in wave 5 of the pandemic emergency, we are seeing the effects of this unfriendly Ford government. Comrades, sisters, and brothers, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I hope you vote in favor of this statement, and I want to remind everyone of the recommendation F, calling on all affiliates to urge their members to remember on election day, 5 months away, that Doug Ford's government is trying to deceive us, and we need to vote them out. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Brother David Kidd.
David Kidd, QB 79. This has been a very moving meeting tonight, and I really appreciate the tribute to Brother Doug. He'll be in our hearts forever, and I really do appreciate the testimonials from Wayne and from Jennifer. Jennifer is totally correct that gig worker, they're looking for all of us to be gig workers. You can talk to anybody in healthcare these days or in other frontline public services, that's already rolling out. And Wayne, I appreciate your bravery of coming forward. I also just will be quick. Very important statement. I love the details. You're rolling out the specifics on how Ford is an anti-worker government. I believe he thinks that we will have amnesia about how he's been as premier, because since he was elected during COVID, he has treated retail workers, healthcare workers, education workers, like they're just something to be disposed of, even though he had to be forced into acknowledge they were the main resource, the main heroes of our economy, while he spent his time encouraging developers to ignore environmental standards and encouraging big businesses like Amazon to continue on. So I appreciate this statement. Let's not allow him to believe that amnesia is going to settle in on the workers of Ontario. Let's defeat Doug Ford in June.
Thank you. I think that's all. All the speaker. So the poll is up. And thank you. We're going to close the poll. My throat is a little bit dry.
Bless you.
Sorry, I have a dry throat now. Okay, so we're going to move on to the correspondent report with Brother Abdi.
Sisters and brothers, comrades, we have tonight one correspondence. It's a request from Greenland Digital Labor Series requesting financial support to reach millennial and Generation Z audience. The executive board recommends a donation of $500.
Okay, and the poll is up. Again, we're asking for a vote to support the motion.
Kingsley hands is up. Do you wanna?
Brother Kingsley?
Right. Thank you, Andrea. This correspondence came to the executive board. I support it. And that's why there is this motion in front of the delegates. I also want to encourage any affiliates, if the affiliates are interested. This is a communications or digital media initiative that is looking for funding, and their target audience is the millennials and Generation Z. It's also the common audience that we organized labor unions want to target and to speak about what organized labor is about. And so thank you. I think I saw the passage of the motion, but I'm encouraging other affiliates to also seek more information from Labor Council about the Green Line, and also looking into supporting it. Some other affiliates like QP National has already contributed. And so, and I'm going to bring it forward to OPSU Region 5 for a similar donation. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Kingsley. If you guys need, any one of you need any more information, you can contact Sister Skylar Maharaj. Back to you, Sister Babington.
Thank you. And I believe Skylar had some more information to the chat as well. And so you can also follow suit with Brother Kingsley. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit, and we have our brother here to talk to us a little bit more about Transform TO. And so for if you don't know too much about it, Transform TO is a Toronto strategy for fighting climate change at the municipal level. And you know, it's always a challenge. It's always a challenge to turn strategy into plan. In November and December of last year, November to December 2021, the Labor Council deputed and made submission in support of the city proposal to the city proposed Transform TO plan to take ambitious climate action. We also call on Toronto City Council to create specific committee for unions and for workers to have a voice and to help implement Transform TO's plan. And tonight we have with us our former president, Brother Cartwright. And again, he was on the, he was there as a co-chair and still remain the co-chair of the Labor Council Environment Committee. And he's also here as a delegate from Carpenter 27. So I'm gonna ask Brother Cartwright to update us on Transform TO.
Thanks, Sister Babington, and Happy New Year to everyone. And our friend Doug Jones, may he rest in power. I'm speaking to the statement that's going to be in front of you in a couple minutes, and I know Dave Mitchell from 79 is also going to say a couple of words about it. You know, we've all understood, we've heard the cries of young people saying something has to be done to stop the horrific climate emergency that we are inheriting as young people across this world. And, you know, we've seen the extreme weather events, the massive fires, the flooding, the freak storms that are telling us more and more this is all real. But the real issue around how do we get to keeping climate change down to 1.5 degrees, even below the 2 degrees Celsius change that was in Paris, down as more and more countries and scientists and people are recognizing we've got to dramatically reduce emissions, is how do we actually make it happen? And I was there in Glasgow at COP26 as a Labour delegate. All the delegations were smaller this time, and you know, you've probably heard a lot about Glasgow. There was a roller coaster of emotions. Some of it was very disappointing. At the last minute, they pulled back from some things. But in fact, it was also a lot of important advances there. Coal was named for the first time. Fossil fuels were named for the first time as being the culprits that had to be addressed. And the labor movement for the last dozen years across the world at these COPs has been going there and saying, if you are going to decarbonize and move every sector of the economy to a clean future, workers have to be at the table as you're making those plans, because it's their livelihoods that you're going to be impacting. Now, our city of Toronto has actually had an amazing history of climate leadership going back many, many years. And you know, I was the head of the building trades in the early 90s when we collaborated with Peter Tabbins, who's here with us tonight as our MPP. He was a city councillor, Rob Maxwell, and we created the Better Buildings Partnership that in the face of 30% unemployment in the construction trades, put thousands of people back to work doing energy retrofit buildings as a municipal program. And the one municipal program, 47,000 years worth of work for construction trades since that thing was initiated. We've been at the table demanding things like the green bin program. QP partnered with the Toronto Environment Alliance, saying we should be diverting all those organics. And originally, people said, no, what are you talking about? You're just trying to make more QP jobs. Well, actually, they did want more jobs, more green jobs. And now, you know, the green bin program has diverted almost, I think, 800,000 tons of organics out of the waste stream every year. It's an amazing success. QP 79, their health and safety activists helped lead the fight for a safe sewage bylaw, so you wouldn't have poisons put into our sewers. And we've got an amazing history as a labor movement. We're building on that history by having gone to City Council in this series of deputations that Andre talked about and saying, we want a place at the table for labor as this city takes on its most ambitious plan yet, the Transform TO, and says we've got to get, as a whole city, our whole economy to net zero by 2040. Well, how are you going to do that? That means retrofitting every single building. Mike Layton asked me the other day, we are going to have to change every furnace in every home in Toronto. Where are we going to get 1 million heat pumps? Will they be manufactured here in Canada or not? And is that part of our fight and our conversation about good green jobs? And of course it is. Our Labour Council held a huge event back in 2009, the Good Green Jobs for All Summit. And hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people come and talk about how we could create a low carbon economy with good jobs, including things like community benefits, equity hiring, training programs for all kinds of folks. So we were able to work with Councillor Layton and get City Council to agree that there would be a table where all of the unions who have collective agreements with the City of Toronto, the firefighters, QPs, the trades, transit, and others would sit down at that table and say, yeah, let's map out how the city greens up its operations, its programs, its assets, and how do we make that kind of stuff happen. And that will include Toronto Community Housing, the largest social housing provider in this country. It'll include Enwave, which is, you know, got a district heating and cooling system all the way downtown and needs to be replicated elsewhere. We had asked that the city take that leadership in creating tables for a number of key sectors, including construction, manufacturing, the film industry, healthcare, education, to help guide their journey to low carbon. We didn't get all of those. We got the city table for city unions, and we got a construction industry table, because 52% of the CO2 emissions in Toronto come from existing buildings, and moving to green construction, net zero buildings is a huge effort. And our trades, as people know, have amazing training centers that are already been training up people for low carbon buildings. You know, the pipe fitters have been teaching geothermal for 20 years. The electricians have had alternative energy for decades. The carpenters are moving forward on high-rise timber buildings. We've got a training experience, and our labor education center now, through Working in 2050, will be able to provide the training and the skills for our own labor representatives to sit at those tables. So we will have knowledge when we sit down and map out how this city operates, how different parts of the economy operate. It's been a struggle to have the words just transition inserted in the COP declarations. It's there now, but it's only when workers are at the table designing what this transition looks like will it truly be just. Because change is assured, as we've heard from our friends in the gig workers and elsewhere, change is assured. Justice is not. It'll only be there when we're there armed with the tools and the knowledge and a place at the table to negotiate good jobs in this low carbon, sustainable future for all. And I know Dave Mitchell wants to say a couple of words to the statement as well. Thanks, sister.
Thank you. Brother Dave? Brother Dave Mitchell, are you there?
He may have been called away. I'm looking for his name in the participant list.
He's not there.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, he did say he had some internet issues, so maybe that's happened. So.
Sure. So I see Brother Aleem.
Good evening, everybody. Sorry, I'm just having a bit of internet issues, so I'm going to keep my video feed off. But we have been talking about this, and at HU Local 113, we know that there is a push to have green vehicles, similar to zero emission buses and the streetcars that we're getting from Bombardier and Alstrom. We have been working with our employer and with City Council and everybody involved, really, and Centennial College and the Ministry of Colleges and Trades. So now with these e-buses that we have approached them and said, typically our coach technicians would have a 310T license, which is normally recognized as a diesel engine. We know that things are transitioning, and we've had fleets change from diesel to new generations to hybrids, and we have approached the ministry and gotten our e-bus fleet recognized so that our coach technicians will take over that work. Coach technicians is a fancy word for mechanics. Sorry, I feel like I'm talking to my membership, so I got to just clean it up a bit, but we will be doing the work on those new e-buses, and John is 100% right. This is the new initiative, and we are moving in this direction. And it's very important that all of our unions are not just involved, but have a voice in how this movement looks like and what labor looks like moving forward in this economy. Because if we are not careful, we may be left behind, and that's the last thing we want. This is an opportunity for us, not only as labor to be a voice for labor, but to be a voice in what we want our world to look like and what our carbon footprint looks like. So I'll just leave it with that, and thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you. Brother Stephen Shalon.
Thank you, Sister Babington. I just wanted to let delegates know that the Labor Education Center has been doing quite a bit of work on climate change and climate education. we are certainly available if you or your local is interested in a workshop on climate change, in beginning to look at how you can have a joint union management committee to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in your workplace. These are things that LEC can help you with. I'll put my email in the chat box, and please get in touch with me. Thank you.
Thank you. So I see no more speaker. I'm going to ask for the poll to put up. Okay. And the poll is closed. Thank you. So as we're listening to speakers tonight, I think what is also fitting, and I never leave this out, because I think we always need a formula of how we're gonna get through a lot of our struggles, whether we are a union or our own members in the community. We have there has to be a formula, and one key area that I always start off is the workers power or community power, and we cannot leave out our political power. And with that, we have another speaker that's here with us tonight, Betula, who she was in June 2018, she made history by becoming the first person of Tibetan heritage to be elected to public office in North America. She's been active on issues around social justice, public health, and she's a longtime advocate of affordable housing, workers' rights, and public, and also healthcare. So she's here tonight to help us to set the tone and to talk to us again, just to remind us of how, the importance, and to make sure that we don't give up. We need to have governments on side. So I'm gonna open up and welcome Sister Betula.
Thank you so much, Sister Babington. Good evening, friends, sisters, and brothers. I want to begin by also paying tribute to Brother Doug. We all know how much of an impact he made, and we will continue to feel his energy as we move forward in solidarity with each other. Thank you so much also to the previous speakers. It is through learning and hearing from the lived experiences of workers that we're able to understand what changes need to be made and how we can do it. And finally, thank you for having me. I want to also wish all of you a happy new year. It has been a challenging start to the year, but I know that through organizing, the year ahead will get better and will bring for us all better health and greater solidarity in our communities. When the pandemic started, it laid bare the inequities in society. I mean, we all heard it, right? But the crisis also brought people together. And if you recall, there was a burst of organizing. Many, many efforts continue to this day. Mutual aid groups were popping everywhere. Neighbors were checking in on each other. All sorts of really good work happening on the ground. But now, as this pandemic rages on for almost 2 years now, we are seeing and experiencing that the gaps that we were filling as a community, we're finding it a bit more difficult to go on for a long time, because not only are there fewer resources, there is the mental health toll, the exhaustion, and so on. And it makes, I think, very clear the role and the reason for our government but we really need to ensure that the government is on our side, that the government works for us, the people. And right now, as you have heard from all previous speakers, and time again in the last 3 years, that we have a government that does not serve the people, and a government that does not serve the people even during a crisis. So this year is an important year because we have an opportunity to do something big with the provincial election that's coming up in less than 5 months. Organizing throughout the year in between elections is really important, and I've said that many times, even after I've been elected, but elections are critical. It can be major turning points. And people know that the Ford government's handling of the pandemic has been terrible. We know it because we've lived through it, right? Nurses were begging and had to fight for PPE, for basic PPE to be safe. Long-term care operators not only got away with negligence, but ended up being rewarded with 30-year licenses to continue to make profit. Tenants were being evicted at record speed, under a minute, via Zoom. Of course, we saw the Hunger Games of the vaccine rollouts for dose 1, dose 2, and dose 3. I mean, I could go on and on, but I know I don't need to because we are all living the reality of having a conservative government. And so we know we need to vote Ford out. But it's not just about voting Ford out, it's also about the alternative. And right now, the alternative is the NDP. We know because the crisis that we're experiencing right now has exposed how fragile our public services are, our public systems are. And that's been happening not just because of the pandemic. We were not ready for the pandemic. It's been happening because our public services have been under attack for decades. I mean, look at what's happening in the healthcare system right now. We are seeing a major capacity issue. But we, if you recall, have had a capacity issue for a long time. In 2018, in the 2018 election, hallway healthcare was one of the key issues. And so we have had both liberal and conservative governments who have weakened our public systems, our public services. Successive governments, both conservative and liberal. And in the NDP, heading into this next election, we are presenting bold but practical policies on these issues. $20 an hour minimum wage, 10 permanent paid sick days with 14 more during a public health emergency, a Green New Democratic deal to tackle the climate crisis, as Brother Cartwright said, through good green jobs that will transition our province in a just way. Closing loopholes and strengthening tenant rights, rent control laws, hitting hard on speculation, ending profit in long-term care, repealing Bill 124. We also need urgent action to fix the WSIB, to end deeming, and to ensure gig workers are workers and not contractors, and so much more. These are very clear and concrete measures that will make a material difference in the lives of the working people of our province. And so I ask all of you to get involved. Don't wait until the election. We have a lot of work to do leading up to it. Contact your local NDP, MPP, or candidate and do what you can to help out. Show up at meetings. We need all hands on deck to fight for better. Now, if you recall, Ford used the notwithstanding clause to pass legislation to essentially silence, right, organized groups, unions from participating in our democracy, in the elections. But one thing that he, or anyone for that matter, cannot do is to stop the organizing that happens on the ground, the real work of talking to your friends, neighbors, co-workers, everyone around us, so that we can send a strong message about the kind of future that we want. We have a real opportunity here, not just to vote Ford out and ensure that he doesn't get a second term, but for us to truly come out of this pandemic in a more equitable way and to start to rebuild the systems that should be working for us. And with that, I leave you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I can promise you that we definitely need this. We need it. We know that we can't second guess ourselves, but we definitely need the support from each other to remind ourselves that we can do it. It seems overwhelming, but we can do it. And with your message, I think that will help us, that we are able to get ourselves organized and get ready to take this person out. Thanks very much for coming. And with that, I would say the last few months, we've been celebrating our 150th anniversary, the Labor Council 150th year anniversary that will lead us in the next few months. And Susan is going to give you some update on some of the activities that's coming up to continue to celebrate the 150th anniversary. Susan.
Thank you, Sister Babington, Madam President. As Andrea mentioned, we began celebrating the Labor Council's 150th anniversary, specifically on April 12th, 2021, with a virtual event because it's a pandemic, and we launched our fabulous website, labor150.ca. We have plans to roll out different exciting events and activities during 2022. And of course, a lot of our plans have been affected by the pandemic, which means our focus so far has been online. We really do look forward to being able to get together in person for exhibits and a gala some point later this year. Just to look back to December, the Labor Council partnered with Museum of Toronto in a multimedia event called Derailed, the history of Black railway porters in Canada. It was a really participatory, interesting event. But today, we're happy to give you a glimpse at what you can participate in with us on Tuesday, January 25th. We're going to be doing a movie night where we'll show the movie Maria, followed by a lively panel discussion. This will be a special screening of the only Canadian movie made about a union organizing drive, an organizing drive led by immigrant women in Toronto's textile industry. Most of us become union members because we land a job that's unionized. Not many of us joined a union by being part of organizing one. And this movie tells the story of a group of women trying to do just that. And the movie does a really good job of telling that story. And it does it in less than an hour, in case any of you were thinking that if you attended, it was going to be a long, long evening. I want to show you a really quick clip from the movie just to whet your appetite. So here it goes.
It's against the law. The Canadian law. Do you understand? Here in Canada, it's against the law to join a union. You sign the card, you go to jail. See? Speed up, come on, speed up.
So hopefully that's piqued your interest a little bit. I won't give anything away, but the ending really shows how workers build their power. So please make sure you register on our website to get the link. After the movie, there will be a quick panel discussion. Screenplay writer Rick Salutin will be there. For those of you who are old like me or who read the Toronto Star regularly, you'll know the name Rick Salutin. Laurel Ritchie, who heads up the Good Jobs for All EI working group, will join us. Laurel was in the Garment Workers Union for a number of years and will bring that experience with her. And finally, our own Andrea Babington has been involved in many organizing drives and will share her knowledge about the lessons for today. So please join us and remember to check out our website, labor150.ca, for other interesting labor and union stories, as well as our 150 profiles of courage. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Susan. All right. Okay, so next on the agenda is the, just to let you know, for February, it's once again, the nomination for our Labor Council. It's a nomination that's coming up for announcement in February. That's at the February 3rd delegates meeting. We'll have we are calling and we're giving you notice now that will be a nomination, part of it, a nomination night. And with that, it's for the board and the committee, and also all the committees will be up for nomination. The requirement for that, I'll go through it a little bit, and in case there's other question that Marina or Susan could add to that. So your requirement to be eligible, the delegates must be listed on the official credential form submitted by your union or your local no later than noon on February 2nd. The local must have paid their per capita tax up to and including November 2021. The delegates must be either present, that's in person, over Zoom, or a forward acceptance letter in writing to the Labor Council. So those are the requirements. If there's any other question, you could forward them to Maureen or Susan if you have more question to that. But just to let you know, for the next delegates meeting, we'll be having a nomination prior to the, is it before? It's first thing before the agenda. Is that at the beginning or mid? Part of that meeting anyway. You'll see that. Yeah. Okay. And with that, we're going to move on to the project. I don't know if anyone is here from CLC to do a report. So it's
You betcha. I'm here, President Andrea.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you? Good evening, delegates, and just would like to take a moment to honor Doug Jones, a brother in the struggle who gave so much of his life to fighting for working people. May he rest in power. And thanks to everyone who shared stories about working alongside Doug. So here we are in 2022, and I would like to wish all of you a happy new year. But instead, I'm going to wish all of you a new year with an even stronger fire in your spirit. And as President Andrea has said, a passion to work hand in hand with progressives in our collective fight. We know, as of yesterday, being in this lockdown, it's going to be a tough year. And I know that each person here fights every day to make sure that the future that we see ahead is a brighter one. So I hope you had even a moment to rejuvenate over the holiday season, because we're going to need every bit of effort in this year ahead. It's clear that the disgusting lack of proactive planning from this Ford government has positioned us in the state that we're in today, where nurses are writing the government saying that our healthcare system is on the brink of collapse, where teachers, parents, and students are navigating day to day, moment to moment, recalibrating their entire lives, and where every single worker in every sector is carrying the fear of what lies ahead. So this is a big year. We have both a provincial and a municipal election. And the provincial election, as we've already heard from the workers that spoke today and our elected officials, that it can change the course of our reality. And to put in a government created by labor will uphold the day-to-day planning and supports that working people need right now. That is through an NDP government. That is our Labor Party. And as has already been shared, if you're not already active with your local NDP riding association, now is the time to get involved. And I'm sure that it's very easy to find the contact information if you don't already have it. And I'm sure the Labor Council is happy to provide that if you need it. Subsequent to the provincial election are the municipal elections, and I know your Labour Council will be fighting tooth and nail to elect truly progressive individuals into power, and the Canadian Labour Congress will be there to support these efforts every step of the way. While advocating for workers and alongside workers, and planning for elections will be at the forefront of the Congress's work at the federal level, whether it's healthcare, childcare, long-term care, or elder care. It's evident that the care systems in our society are pivotal to ensuring that we emerge out of this pandemic. We need care. We all need care at some point in our lives. Our jobs, our families, and our economy depends on it, whether that is paid or unpaid care work. It all helps us, get through the day-to-day. And therefore, the Canadian Labour Congress's focus in 2022 is to fight for the multiple layered supports to address the clear deficits in the care economy that continue to compound. So I'm going to put a link in the chat with a little bit more information about that campaign. Alongside that campaign, it is the stories of care workers, caregivers, and people who need care who will be central to this campaign. And we want the public and decision makers to understand why care is important, what care jobs entail, and how investing in care would make a difference for care workers as well as the people who rely on care. So we want to hear stories from all aspects of care work, paid and unpaid, in childcare, in long-term care, healthcare, home care, and other care services for elderly people. So I will also be putting the link in if you have a story to share or have a person that you'd like to highlight. I also want to thank the speaker tonight, Jennifer, from the gig economy, the CLC, and all provincial and territorial federations of labour unanimously rejected the recommendations of the Ontario Workforce Recovery Advisory that, as she said, would enshrine second-class status for gig workers. We stand in solidarity with these workers and continue to fight for the legislative and cultural protections to ensure that they are not treated as second-class status. And finally, I did want to comment on what Steve mentioned. The Labour Education Centre's Climate Science Workshop is phenomenal, and Steve's expertise in joint workplace emissions reductions committees is a game changer in our fight ahead to address the climate crisis. So please, his email is in the chat. Reach out to him to, bounce ideas off or brainstorm or learn alongside him about what you can be doing in your union and your workplace to reduce emissions. That's it for me this evening. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to echo again for council project. Steve, any more report? Labor Community Service, any report before I move on?
I wanted to just bring to delegates' attention that the McMaster University has moved its labor studies program to online. There are details in the e-blast that was sent out earlier today by Jennifer. It's very easy to register. There's a lot of interest in their coursework. In speaking with the labor studies program at McMaster, prior to going online, they averaged about 12 to 15 students per course, and now they're up to about 60 students, 80% of which are union activists from coast to coast. So I encourage you to look at the e-blast. If I have time before the meeting ends, I'll put an email, contact email from McMaster in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I hope I didn't miss anyone there. So next call for a committee report. Any of the committee have a report? Brother Ralph?
Yes, thank you, sister. Comrades, brothers and sisters, condolences to Brother Doug's family. He will be missed dearly. I remember my first committee meeting, our first meeting, he greeted me at the door, and that bright smile, always there, always dedicated, and truly a person to emulate, and will be missed. The Equity Committee met in December to discuss our strategic direction for 2022. We met over the course of a day, and we came up with some firm and practical goals. I wouldn't say too much, but we're planning a really exciting iWalk session for you this year. And we promised to outdo ourselves. We also had Sister Andrea join us to help us with any sort of roadblocks. So we been a lot more visionary this time around. I also want to say that, remind you that January is Tamil Heritage Month, and the feature this month is of Ram Salvaraja. Many of you know Ram. He has been a long-time labor and community activist and a former mayoral, Mississauga mayoral candidate. And his passion is in keeping utilities in the hands of the public and not for profit. The slogan goes, "We own it," and every worker should have a right to equal opportunity in the province. The other thing I want to mention is that on the horizon is Black History Month in February, and our committee, we've taken on the ambitious goal of putting together some vignettes of Black labor influencers. Those are my comments. I bid all of you a pleasant night. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I've seen no one else on the committee report. I'll move on to union report. And before I miss, I think we have a sister here, Sister Anita Nickerson from UPSU 562 that also want to give union report. Go
Yes,
ahead.
thank you. Thank you very much, Sister Babington. And thank you, Sister Susan, for also letting me know about the process. This is my first time speaking here. I am a bit nervous. I'm going to refer to some of my notes. I want to just reiterate what JP Hornick, Sister JP had mentioned earlier about our plight for OPSU and dealing with the CEC, the employer. I'm going to give you my personal experience as a partial workload committee member and partial workload faculty member, which ties into the gig economy of Jennifer. A lot of people don't realize that a number of us profs, instructors, facilitators within the college sector, there's definitely a two-tier system, and it has been created by management and condoned by management. And this is where we in solidarity can help one another here. So my personal plight and those of partial workload. I have another semester that I can teach, but I have sisters and brothers that don't have a semester to teach. That means they don't get paid. That means they may not get benefits, which means also if they don't have the hours, they may not collect EI. And so what ends up happening with partial workload, which means basically it's a 4-month contract that some of us actually have to beg and plead for. What ends up happening is we only get paid for teaching hours. So all the preparatory, all the exams, all those 101s, particularly in the light of COVID, and our students are suffering with a lot of mental angst, we don't get paid for. So when we look at our hours, we get paid below minimum wage. And so what's happening to us partial workload, besides us being precarious workers, and that we don't get our traditional semester course load, we move then to what's called part-time. And part-time is not unionized. And so we don't have the protections of our brothers, sisters, and comrades. We're still in solidarity with our part-timers, but they don't have the protection. So what are we asking for? What are we really asking for? What we are asking for is just basic rights. We're not asking for money. We're capped with Bill 124, that 1%. And as JP had mentioned, management are getting 5% more each year in a raise, plus bonuses of up to $30,000 per person, some of them. It's much more than this. We are asking as union members, we are asking for quality education for the next generation. We are asking for more time to spend with our students. We do what we do because we love it. We love helping the kids and the older adults, and we want to help society. And so you, as union members, make a positive difference with just one click away. I'm going to ask you to support us in solidarity by going to the website that I'll send again in a second. It's a call to action. So my ask is a couple of things. One is to sign that online petition. It takes only 1 minute. You can call yourself an ally. If you happen to have, if you are a family member, faculty, please sign it. The other one is to share this petition link and what you know tonight from what JP has said, and to prevent precarious and gig economy in education. Share the link with your family, share it with your neighbors, community, and social media. I'm also going to ask you to write to your local MPP and the Minister Jill Dunlop, who is the Ontario's Minister of Colleges and Universities. I want to thank you. Merci. Megwich. Happy New Year, and thank you for your solidarity and this time.
Thank you. And I see Brian, your hand is up. Brian Connolly.
Hi, I'm Brian Connolly, newly elected executive board member of ATU Local 113 for the automotive garages. Just wanted to give a quick condolences to Doug, brother Doug. His infectious smile when he greeted you at the door was contagious. He cared about many, many people. He constantly communicated with me on Facebook and Facebook Messenger over the years, and he's going to be greatly missed. Just to give a little report on ATU Local 113's recent arbitrated contract ruling. ATU Local 113 was awarded a 3-year contract with increases in the first year of 2.17%, the second year 2%, the third year 2%, an increase of 1 bereavement day, and other benefit improvements along the way. What helped me get elected, I believe, to the executive board was my advocacy on the Keep Transit Public Committee, and also my advocacy within the Toronto York Region Labour Council, and working on several of our sister and brothers municipal and provincial campaigns in the last election. Sister Felicia Samuel will tell you I've grinded out day and night, and we need to sit there and educate our members as to the benefits that the NDP party can provide to our workers. For so many years, we keep hearing about why we shouldn't be electing the NDP from our members. It is our job, it's very crucial now, to start now, to get out there and educate our members that we need to elect progressive, labor-friendly candidates in the provincial and the upcoming municipal elections. And that's what I would like to say. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I see Brother David.
David Kidd, QP79, and I'm just coming up with my monthly report from the Toronto Workers History Project, and it's very appropriate that I followed Brian and appreciate all the work he has done. Toronto Workers History Project is presenting a history of ATU 113 next Tuesday night on January 11th. We have sent it out. A long-standing labor communicator, historian, educator, Bill Rayno, will be making a presentation on a history of ATU 113. And we do encourage delegates to view in. It'll be on our Facebook site, and it is accessible. We do have a Zoom link as well. Contact the listing on twhp.ca. Thank you so much, delegates. Great meeting this night. You too, Andrea. Happy
Thank
New Year.
you, thank you. So as as the report, union reports coming in, what is really clear that there is fire on the ground and there's more that's coming. And I think some of the acts, it's really, really easy to do. A lot of these acts so far tonight, asking for support to do some online sign-in letters that's available, asking for support to sign those. So at this point, it's nothing where you have to go in person. And I'm gonna ask if you make sure you go back to the chat and whatever support you can give, if it's signing on to a letter, let us start there, because this is just the beginning of the year. Let us start the solidarity support, making sure that everyone feeling that support is there. Because when, as I said last year, when the announcement was coming out, these press conference was coming out, and then it stopped. It had nothing to do with us, and we have to really change that. We have to turn the direction of where we want to see things go. So these are easy acts where the members that are struggling don't have to feel alone. We have to take them on one at a time. So make sure before you leave tonight, you transfer those links that you can start supporting it. I mentioned early on that, again, the struggle. Sometimes we mentioned that we spend more time at work than in our own home. So our co-worker become our second family. So there's struggles that's happening within the workplace, and it's happening within your home or the community. And I did promise that I would leave the open mic where each of you could share a little bit about the impact, what's happening to your, whether it's work or home, family, or even resource that you have that you can share with us. So the mic is open for whoever would like to start off about what's happening right now, and if you have the answer of how we can take on some of this, please share. And I'm sure we don't have any shy person inside on this Zoom tonight. Who's going to go first? There's no plan, no struggle.
Maybe
Right.
we've been given so much food for thought and so many actions. Maybe we've said it all, but maybe there are still people who'd like to add something.
I think we have to not too many good speakers who cover it all the issues that matters for labor, and more on majority or most of us or all of us know what is on stake. What do we want to, who we want to elect? And we should not actually live in illusion to move forward, and some politicians knock our doors and say, I will do that, because history tells us that many of them will say whatever you want until they get elected. So we have to be careful to elect a progressive, labor-friendly NDP government this time that corrects all the mistakes, that fills the holes that Ford and his government did it in the last years they were on governing the Ontario province. So this is, I think, it's a happy new year, all of you guys. But this new year, there's many things on the balance. We cannot forget when he reduced the council chambers to 25 only. We cannot forget how devastated we were. The fight starts from the first day when he attacked the education workers, the healthy workers, TTC, and all above. So this is the time that this year is the year that we will decide to have a progressive councillors and MPPs that represent us, the communities we live, the families, and the future, the gig workers. That is the future that they will go by. Nowadays, they said they will not even count tests. Test yourself, and if you test positive and you think, do that. So this is just the beginning. It's downloading all the work to us, everything, the health, the education. So sisters and brothers, comrades, unity is important, and working together to have what we want is very important. And I thank you very much and good night.
Thank you. And I see some of you are using the chat. That's great. Like we can always follow up and everyone else can look to it. Wayne, your hand is up.
Yeah, so I'd just like to say that June 1st will be Injured Workers Day. Although I don't know what action will be taken with ONIWIG, the Ontario Network of Injured Workers Group, but I'm hoping to be in contact and have the Toronto York Labour Council be in solidarity with the injured workers on June 1st.
Okay, thank you. Brother Bill?
Sisters and brothers, I just want to be very brief. When I first got married, there was no real health care in the province of Ontario. You had to pay for your own medical. You pay for hospitalization directly. I'm going to tell you that I have reason to believe we're coming back down that way. They're going to cry that they're poverty struck, the Conservative government. They don't care about working people. The legislation that is being brought forward is to destroy us, any part of the labor movement, but it's also to destroy the general population of this province. The working class, the middle class, they're going to try and take it all away from us. Now, if you don't realize it, look around. Look around what's happened. No one can even afford a house here. But the people that are selling them are my age, and the only reason we're selling them is we're going to give it to our grandkids. And rest assured, they will be looking for some way to tax those houses, to tax transfer of your wills when it happens. They are going to be looking at every possible way to steal the money back off of hardworking people. There will be no raises. They will pass a law that you can't have a raise. I'm telling you right now that what I see coming down, it's right there. And if you don't vote for the New Democrats, because I don't think the Liberals will do anything for you either, because they're going to be saddled with a bankrupt economy as well. The last time this happened, it was a New Democratic Party. They were given no money in the Treasury after the Liberals said there was all kinds of money in the Treasury, and we found it bankrupt. Bob Rae, who was the Premier of the province at that time when we had an NDP government, decided that we had to build things. We put the 407 through. We put that through knowing full well we had paid off soon, but the Conservatives sold it. In 100 years, we'll have to pay for that highway. All those monies would come back to the government of Ontario if we had have held it. All the buildings that were put along the 407 that you see today, that was because the New Democrats talked to the building trades and other unions, and they looked at the possibility of a future of construction, a future of everyone manufacturing all those products. There is nothing that the Liberals or the Conservatives are offering us but unemployment and low wage. Brothers and sisters, get your friends there. Get them to work for the New Democrats and get them elected. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So I thank everybody for staying on, and I know there's more for us to talk about for the next coming weeks and months, and maybe report on some actions, more fine-tuned plans for us to win. So I'm gonna I'm gonna close, and with closing, I think one of the more fitting message out here we're gonna put on this Bob Marley song, "Get Up, Stand Up," again, just to remind you, no one coming for us to save us. We gotta get some energy and put our boots on and take on this fight.